Welcome to the show where we make changes, no excuses, ways of coping with the loss of a loved one. Today, my guest and I will be discussing ways of coping with losing a loved one. First, I want to say thank you for collaborating with me this morning. Now, thank you. Briefly tell us where on these YouTube streets can they find you, and what do you talk about on your channel?
My YouTube channel, the name is Delliawyn. On my YouTube channel, I do a lot of different things. My channel was a little bit like educational and entertainment. A little bit, my personality is like a little bit silly, but also I have knowledge behind it. So you'll get a little laugh, a little smile, and you'll also learn something on my channel.
And that's what brought me to your channel, because of learning something. That's what it's all about. But just a sidebar, I don't claim to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist. My guest and I we're going to be discussing this matter and give you some tips that you probably can use, that we've conjured up over the times in which we lost someone. And we hope that we'll be able to give you something that you can use in your time of need. Now, Delia, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's put this in perspective. How this topic is, how important is it for you, especially around the holidays, in terms of someone who has lost a loved one? Do you think this is a very important topic to discuss? I'm quite sure you do, but just give your opinion in terms of how you feel about it.
It's very important to me because, growing up and just period, I never really lost anyone close to me. And so I never really understood, how it can affect a person. And just hearing people around me losing people and losing loved ones, I never understood how it could affect them. So I lost the person that was the closest to me, the only person I had, my only support and my everything, and that was my mother. Okay. And it was very unexpected. So it wasn't like, I seen it coming or anything like that. It was very unexpected. And she was young. She was 52 years old when she passed. And she was very healthy and young looking and everything. And, it was like a dark cloud went over me, and my whole entire existence just was like, I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't know what to tell my kids. When I first found out, I didn't even tell my kids. Like, I held it because I'm like, I don't know how to tell them this. And all my children are young. I have 4 children. They're all young. So it's like, how do you explain this, to children? And, I went into a very deep depression and was drinking and doing all types of stuff because I was so lost. And I feel like it's important for people to know about, losing someone so they can know how to go forward when something like that happens. Because like I said, I was lost. Didn't know what to do. I was doing all types of research and talking all types of crazy because I didn't know what to expect or what to do or what was happening. You know what I mean? And, I would just cry and cry and cry. And like, I wanted to, take my life and my children's life. And I had to call the suicide hotline and all types of stuff was going on because I didn't know how to deal with it. And then when the holidays and stuff come up, it's even worse because it's like, now you have to do, excuse me. Now you have to do this without, this person. Or when things come up, like my children, like I said, they're all small. They're in daycare. The daycare's closed. I usually call my mom and say, Mom, could you, watch my kids for me? Now it's like, who am I to call? So I was lost, and it's like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? So, like I said, around this time, it gets worse because it's like, now you got to experience this without the person, that you have or that you had during this time before. So it's like readjusting your life and, figuring out ways to do things, you know what I mean, without the person that you had before. And she was support mentally, physically, financially, all of that. So now when she did pass, I moved to her house, because she had a house and she got this house for me and my siblings. So I moved to her house. So being in her house and being around, different things that, remind me of her will also trigger that. Right. So in all of that I've learned doing research and self-reflection and, things like that, you know, these things happen, and you have to find your way of coping with these things. Like, I have pictures of her. I carry, I have a necklace. I usually wear it on my neck, but I broke the chain. I get a new chain, a picture of her on my, my neck. Her obituary sits in my car window. My favorite color is purple. I have a purple phone case. I do my nails purple. Things like that I keep around me to keep our spirit alive. And the reason I started my YouTube channel was because of her, because she was, she was big on like video and taking pictures and looking in the mirror and things like that. So I feel like when I do that, it's like kind of showing that through me. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's like how I learned to cope with it. So it's like you have to find your way and your path to cope with things like that. Because if not, you're going to just be lost. You know what I mean? So it's very important to find your way and how you deal with a situation like that.
Well, this is going to be new to me because, I appreciate this wholeheartedly because I haven't lost my mother, but I lost my father. This is sidebar, and it hurt me a great deal. But I'll mention a little bit more as we go on. But why do you think that people have a hard time dealing with the loss of a loved one? Do you think that and this is a two-part question. Do you think that if a person had, if they haven't had, or what have you, the spiritual guidance, would that help out a great deal or whatnot? If you can answer the first part, in terms of why do you think people have a hard time dealing with the loss of a loved one?
Yeah, so I feel like, and this deals with, how I wasn't like spiritually guided. I didn't know, how to look at things in a spiritual way. And a lot of us are conditioned to look at, things in, I guess, a more religious way versus a spiritual way. You know what I mean? So we're not these things, so we don't know what's going on, and we look at it as a bad thing. You know what I mean? All the time, when it's really not supposed to be that way. Now, we're so misguided in the ways of the world that when something that natural happens, is looked at it as a bad thing, and it's so black, and you're so sad and upset, and you're crying and all of these things, when it's really just a part of life. And if you live your life the right way, it's peace when you're done. Like, I feel like, living on this earth is the bad part of life. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much going on, and there's so much evil, and and then when it's finally time for you to rest, you're at peace. You know what I mean? Of course, if you live the perfect life, you never know, what somebody, but if somebody was doing right and living right and doing what they were put on this earth to do, they're at peace. So, you have to have that spiritual guidance to understand that that's how it works. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So you definitely advocate the fact that's very important in a person's life, because I hear what you're saying, and I definitely believe that as well, and what have you. So you definitely feel that having a quote unquote strong spiritual background would definitely help in these times when you've lost someone.
Yes, definitely. Now, that's not to undermine religion. You have to have both. You know what I mean? So, people can believe what they want to believe, but you have to have that religion and that spirituality, because if you just have the religion, you're not going to understand, what goes on with the spirit. Spirits are real. Souls are real. And you have to understand what happens after this life, the physical life. You want to know what happens in the afterlife. And if you don't have the spiritual aspect of it, then you're going to be lost. You're going to be sad. You're going to be depressed.
And I agree with you too, because a lot of people do get caught up in the fact that if a person's suffering, they want them to be here in the physical form so they can touch, hug, and all these other things. But if you are stronger in your belief and what have you, you will understand that that person can still live with you within your mind and your heart and what have you. And I had to learn that as I got older too. Do you agree?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And, when people are here and they're suffering, it's probably best that they go and rest. You know what I mean? You don't want to have them here physically. That's kind of, if you will, selfish to want them in earth suffering. You know what I mean?
That's right. And that brings me to this question of, do you think that there is a length of time that people should grieve? Because I've heard people say that if someone passes away, you just deal with it and then move on. What's your opinion in terms of that? Is there a length of time do you think, or you should just deal with it for a long time, or what's your opinion?
Well, it's absolutely no time. You can't put a time on that. It all has to do with you and how you deal with it. I would never put a time on any of that. Now what I would like to say is that you shouldn't be down and sad and upset, for, all this time. It's going to happen. But once you realize you come to reality, you're going to still grieve, but not in that way. You know what I'm saying? Not, a sad and depressing way. So I never would put a length of time on that at all. It has to do with you. So you have to find, how you're going to do that. You know what I mean?
Right. And I understand wholeheartedly. And this also leads us into this question in terms of, though there are the 5 steps of grieving, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. What do you feel that people should not spend a great deal on? You know what I'm saying? Like there are people that if someone passes on, they spend a lot of time in depression. They spend a lot of time, blah, blah, blah. What do you think that people should not spend a lot of time on that can help them get over this process? You follow what I'm saying?
Yes. I feel like depression is, you shouldn't spend much time. And of course you're going to be in denial at first, because it's like, I was, I'm like, this is not happening. And I still have dreams, what I mean? Of like, her being there and stuff like that. But I've learned to accept it. But you don't want to spend too much time in depression, because your loved one wouldn't want that. You know what I mean? They would want you to continue to live your life. And, depression is real. And it could lead you to do certain things that, it's, you shouldn't do. And then if you do it later on regret it, because you got stuck in that depression phase. So that I feel like it's important to get past or do something about it, because I was in depression, but I did something about it. So I was able to get brought out of it,
Okay. Now, in talking to you, do you think that there's and I did hear you mention earlier about it's really hard to regardless of losing a loved one, it's hard to deal with. But if a person has passed on in a tragic manner versus someone who has a long-term illness and has passed on, do you think that the grieving process is much easier in that way, in terms of losing a little one in a slow process as opposed to in a tragic manner? And if so, expound on it if you can.
Yeah, in my opinion, I believe so, because if you have a loved one that's, and you're expecting, what I mean, them to, because they're sick, and this is just in my opinion, you're expecting it because they're sick, and you're like, okay, you kind of, seen it coming, it's now time for this person to rest. Now, if it happens like tragically or unexpectedly, it's just like, that hurts more because you did not expect it. Like, like I said, with my mom, she had a heart attack, and she was very healthy. We never saw that coming. It just came out of nowhere. So that made it even worse, because it's like, why? And you're lost, and you're like, what happened? Did she know something? Did this happen? You know what I mean? But if the person's sick for a long time, you know what happened. You know what's going on. You don't have to go looking and researching. Like, we were waiting for her death certificate to come to see what happened. You know what I mean? That left lost. We didn't know what happened. You know what I mean? Get all kinds of all of that stuff. But if they're sick, you don't have to go through all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I mentioned my father earlier. He had Alzheimer's, and it was a slow death, slow process in terms before he passed away. But I was able to deal with. I was angry. That was one of the things that I dealt with in the 5 signs. But I got over it, and I did everything that I could for him a great deal, and I spent as much time as I could. And the process was not hard. And as you mentioned, it's easier in a sense if you know that this person's going through a situation, and eventually it's going to happen, as opposed to something that tragic. So that process definitely helped me out as well. And I also, lastly, as we close, I want to also say, and you can expound on this as well, if people do things for their loved ones, and while they're living, in terms of it, help them out in whatever way that they could, does that do you think help out the process if they were to pass on one? Because there are a lot of people who grieve at funerals and hollering, screaming, things of that nature. And most of the terms, if you know the family members or people that were close to them, they really didn't do too much to that person. So they want to show up and show out at funerals. What's your opinion about that?
Well, you mean like while they were living, they
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Just do it. Let's say, for instance, if someone is ill and you know it, and they ask you to come do this, come do that, and you just give them your time and not think more of yourself, and just help them out. And after, or God forbid, if they pass, the process of grieving is not so hard. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if,
Go ahead.
like if you don't do anything for this point blank, if you don't do nothing for anyone, and they pass on, you come to the funeral, you holler and scream. You that process of grieving for that person is harder, as opposed to if your mom said, "Well, Delia, come do this." Yeah.
I think that in that case, that person would. I'm sorry, that person would have a lot of like guilt. You know what I mean? Because they were here, all this time, and you did nothing. So I think in that case, a lot of that person's, actions come from guilt, a lot of guilt. And also, like, if you're with someone and you haven't done, a lot for this person, even if they weren't like sick, you know what I mean? If they were just regular, and then you haven't done as much as you can or as much as you should have done for a person, even just if it's just helping them out, whatever, and they pass suddenly, and you're like, I didn't get a chance to do this and that. It's a lot of guilt. Or if you contributed to like some stress or whatever, to that person, it's a lot of guilt that they deal with. So it makes their grieving process much harder because they're dealing with guilt, and they're dealing with their self and things like that.
Gotcha, definitely. So I definitely should be one, saying, to do what you can for the people while what they say, give them their roses while they're here. And yeah, exactly. Well, Delia, thank you. So Delia, I want to thank you for coming on the show talking about this. This has helped me out in the process, because like it's been 5 years and I still, think about my father a great deal and what have you. But especially for people around this time of the holidays, they definitely need some type of advice in terms of how they can deal with certain situations and what have you. So with that being said, do you have any closing remarks that you want to share, not just about your channel, but just about yourself and what you've experienced, and just give the people some ideas in this, which they can use?
So, my whole experience, it was a learning experience for me. And I feel like, it helped me, and it's going to help other people, my experience, because not everybody does the research or, learn the things that they should learn. So my experience helps me teach people and helps people learn, and look at things a different way. The video that I made about it kind of helped people feel better. Even my siblings, when they watch the video, they're like, okay, this makes me feel better. So it's a learning experience, and I think that everybody should take time to learn something, spiritually, in their religion, do deeper research, dig deeper, look further, so that you're not blindsided when things happen.
That's what's up. I mean, you can't say no more as far as yeah. Sorry, I got this. You definitely cannot say anymore. You definitely hit the nail on it. And I really am not just saying this because I'm here. When I heard that your video, that helped. I had to get in touch with you. It what you were saying helped me out a great deal, and I appreciate that whatnot. And for real, So with that being said, I want you to give people the name of your channel again, and what have you, where they can find you and what have you. So, because I thank you for collaborating.
You're welcome. Okay, you can find me again on YouTube at Delliawyn, and that's all my social media is Delliawyn, Delliawyn.
Okay, definitely y'all support, because y'all gonna learn something I did. So with that being said, I want you all to continue to subscribe, hit the like button, make sure to share the video. Please do that. That'll help out Delia as well as me, as in terms of getting great messages out. So again,
I just watched your video before we got on here. You're doing great things, so keep it up.